What? Oh, that was not a very good movie. It's just wow. This is one of the all-time horror classics. This is one of the greatest movies ever made. This is one of the greatest directors of all time, Stanley Kubrick. This is the film that fanboys will insist is way better than the novel. It's unbelievable how I was expecting this to be not very good, or I was expecting not to like it, but like having watched it for the first time, like actually sat down, watched it after years of hearing about how good it is, how legendary it is, how groundbreaking it was. I come away thinking that wow, that was it. That was nothing, in fact. And I really do have to say this. This is the main takeaway I get from this. I get from this kind of thing. The book is always better than the movie, unless the book wasn't good to begin with. But The Shining book is a classic, one that I am a huge fan of course. So of course I was interested in seeing the movie, but I just never got around to it until just now. I never really, for years and years, I've heard of how good this movie is, how it's a classic, how it's this genre-defining masterpiece, and I'm sitting here just going, wow. Not only is it not a very good adaptation, a terrible adaptation, in fact, which probably warrants an entire video in and of itself, but it's not a very good movie. On top of that, I don't think this movie really came together all that well at all. In fact, I think that's mostly because this is, in fact, an adaptation. Sure, Kubrick ignored all these core aspects of the novel. He ignored the overall point. He overlooked all these overlooked all of these core aspects of the plot of the novel. Jack's past, his background, his development into his descent into insanity, the nature of the Overlook Hotel itself. He cut a ton of really scenes that I remember in the novel just being very, very memorable and engaging. And that's the main takeaway I get from the movie, in fact, is that, there's no plot to it. When you get right down to it, all that happens in this movie is that a crazy guy takes his family out to this hotel, and then he kills them. That's it. All the conspiracy theories about how this movie has some kind of deep message, about how it has some subtle hidden clues, how Kubrick admitting he helped fake the moon landing and shit like that. No. This movie is as basic and bare bones as it gets, and it's really impossible to take seriously, especially if you are familiar with the novel, as I am. And honestly, if I hadn't read the novel, I still don't think I would care for this film very much, because there's nothing about Jack that's interesting. There's nothing about the family that's interesting. There's nothing about the location, the Overlook Hotel, that's interesting. Nothing about what happens is really engaging at all. I look at Jack and and how he handles this situation, how he goes insane, how he handles going out there. From the very first scene you see him in, going through that interview, I was thinking this to myself, damn, motherfuckers like this could get hired in the 80s for jobs they're clearly not suited for. This guy should not have been hired, okay? When you get right down to it, this motherfucker is clearly out there from the moment he sits down in that office. I would say the moment you start talking to him, you can tell this guy isn't quite who you want up there. Why do you need a family? What is with this decision to have the Stuart Ullman, the hotel manager? What's with the decision of him being a normal guy? Why having him be an asshole in the novel? Why could you not just... it doesn't work. They made all these changes to the script, to the book, to Jack's character, the pacing of... Okay. they stripped away everything that made the novel good. Like, the story arc makes no sense. The overall plot of the novel makes no sense. Like, the supernatural element, like The Shining itself, doesn't play a whole big part in this. Like, really, I was thinking about this, like, when the movie was almost over. Like, the only time The Shining itself becomes relevant is when, like, Danny sends out a message telepathically to Dick Halloran. That's it. Like, that's all that happens. Like, you could easily cut that aspect out of the movie and you would lose nothing. Like, when you get down to it, it's just... there's not all that much in the hotel that really does anything. Like, Jack himself isn't very threatening. Like, I don't feel concerned for the family. Like, for the most part. Like, when I felt most sympathetic for Wendy, and only for Wendy, is when, like, Jack was, like, slapping her around and being shitty to her and all that stuff. I was just like, dude, she's so devoted to you. She's so nice. She's so sweet. And you treat her like this? Really? And, that got an emotional reaction out of me. It was a very... Again, it got a reaction out of me, but, like, it didn't really suit the overall plot of the film very well. It didn't really establish their relationship or mood. In fact, it seemed kind of all over the place, with Jack sort of, like... Again, Jack started out insane. He was always like this. It's just... There's no real development. Like, you don't really get an impression. You don't really understand why Wendy was with this guy to begin with. Like, she treats him like her beloved husband up until he starts attacking her. And when you get right down to it, he was getting ready to do that anyway. It's just, holy shit. It's just, ugh. And that gets my other point. Like, the thing that really gets me about this is that, like, the pacing. Just, holy shit, the pace. Like, how is this a 2-hour movie where it feels like it really could have been half that time? Like, there's no real reason for the setup to be that long. There's too many scenes, like, where nothing happens. Jack is just, like, sitting around. The play doesn't really amount to much. They don't really explain that either. They don't tie that into the overarching point of the novel like they do in the novel, like Stephen King did in the original novel. It just doesn't really amount to much. And again, like, you could easily cut that out and not really lose anything. Like, there's just so much in this thing that's just so superfluous and just pointless and just all around not frightening. It's not engaging. I'm not into it at all, especially near the climax. The climax is just boring. It's just Jack saying, like, really goofy shit, like, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow the house down. Here's Johnny. Like, that's not threatening. That's not frightening. That's not horror. There's nothing about that. The scariest thing in that scene was Shelley Duvall's face, where, like, I don't think I could make that face if I tried. Like, how does she do that? She was just like, it was so over the top and so ridiculous, and just there were times where I straight up laughed at this, like laughed at this movie, like I did it like Black Christmas 2019, that terrible ass movie that I went to go see, that was just like horrible. Like, again, I laughed at this movie, like that scene where he goes into the bathroom with the girl and like she's really hot and naked and like they make out and then like, ooh, she's ugly now, and just like I was just like laughing at that because like, ooh, she hit the wall. That's what you get. It's just unbelievable. It's just oof. The pacing is just there was so much interesting history in the Overlook, in the novel, so much like good development, so much shit that they just ignored in this movie that just, you know, I don't think they bring up that Jack is an alcoholic at all in the movie, and that's like an instrumental part of the novel. I would argue that's probably the his core defining character trait in the novel, and it's nowhere to be found in this. Like, the closest thing you get is when he goes to the bar and which is again in the novel, but like it loses the context because he's not a recovering alcoholic in this. It's just holy shit. Yeah, the book is better. Hashtag the book is better. The book is always better for sure. Like I am so underwhelmed. I'm so disappointed. I'm so like, this is what they came up with. Really, this is The Shining, one of the best movies ever made. Like, holy crap! It's so disappointing. So disappointing. I am just ugh. So yeah, is there anything I liked about the novel? About the movie? Yes, actually, and it's a very strange thing too. It really, really wanted. It really, really made me want to go out in the mountains and go to this hotel because the set is gorgeous. The camera work does a great job at emphasizing like the hotel's beauty, and it's just surreal. It's just gorgeous. It's colorful and bright, which really surprised me, especially in the first half. The first half of the movie is gorgeous. The second half is like ugly and boring and dark as shit. But the first half is like really bright and colorful and really sticks out. I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, I found myself just like, wow, this is really engaging. This is I'm really into this. I really, really like what I'm seeing here. I'm just so engaged. I was so engaged with it. Oof. They don't make movies that look like that anymore. I swear they don't. Like, I just love the bright colors. They're just, they really stick out to me, and I just, oof. Yeah. The sets in general are great. You see a lot of them, like the hotel itself, the halls, it's just the hedge maze. A lot of these establishing shots in the beginning, they're just gorgeous. Like when you see the hedge maze from above, gorgeous. When you see like the mountains, gorgeous. When you see like the hotel entrance hall, that room where Jack writes in, gorgeous. The movie, if nothing else, is extremely well shot, and I think it's probably one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen. But that doesn't really, again, this is a film. This isn't a video game. The story does matter. The characters do matter. The acting does matter. Ooh, did I not talk about the acting? Ooh, yeah. The acting is terrible. Like, I'm gonna come out here and say this. Like, the best actors in the movie. Jack Nicholson just overacts everything. He's ridiculous. I think I already talked about this. Like, Danny is just a typical kid actor. There's nothing really special about him. He's probably the best actor in this. Like, because he doesn't, like, overact. He doesn't, like, overreact to things the way that, like, the other characters do. Like, Shelley Duvall just goes around just, like, screaming at everything. It's just, like, It just doesn't work out. Like, the whole movie just comes together very, very poorly. I don't understand the nature of the Overlook Hotel. I don't think the core idea is very interesting. I don't think it was executed very well. Like, the entire thing, like I said, it just boils down to this guy taking his family out to the mountains to kill them. That's it. You could take the supernatural element out of it altogether and lose nothing. In fact, I was actually thinking about this during the hedge maze scene where, like, Danny outsmarts him and gets out. Like, the hotel has the power to let him out of the pantry, but it won't send someone to, like, lead him out of the hedge maze. Like, really? Like, he can't just go back inside and then wait for people to come back in and then kill them too. Like, it can't, like... Why did it want them dead to begin with? It's just... The movie changes so much from the novel. You have to, like, ask these questions, right? Like, the novel explains things splendidly. Like, the novel makes everything interesting, but the movie, nothing. And it's sort of like, I'm about to go on a rant about Berserk in the next couple of days. Talk about what I think of the fan base of that. But it's a lot like how, it feels like the fans of this movie look for things that aren't actually there, right? Like, it feels like a lot of the conspiracy theories, a lot of, like, the speculation I've seen, a lot of the hype regarding this movie revolves around, like, the mystery of it. It was like, ooh, why did Jack go crazy? Ooh, what's the nature of the Overlook Hotel? Ooh, what did Kubrick mean by this? It's just, ooh, it's so deep and complex. It's conspiratorial. Like, there's no real basis in the film to really think that like it's anything more than, as I said, a movie about a guy killing someone in the mountains. There's like nothing more to it than that. Like, it lost all the impact from the original novel because, again, it's a terrible, terrible adaptation, and there's nothing more to it than that. And in fact, I am going to go ahead and watch some Shining speculation videos after I'm through giving my thoughts, because I do want to like see what other people have to say about this. Because Cinemassacre, I actually pulled up the video already. I haven't seen it yet, but I am going to see what James Rolfe has to say about this, and then hopefully I'll get to reading up on some of the more colorful conspiracy theories about this movie, because I think that's going to be like a really interesting topic. It's just talking about how insane these conspiracies are, because there's nothing in this movie that really sticks out to me as being anything special. Like, it has a pretty set, some bright colors, some pretty colors, but for the most part, I found it completely laughable.